Click clack. Hello there, camera 1. And bear with me a second, I'm just turning on camera number 2 over here. Hopefully I've got it on. It's hi camera 2, I hope you can pick me up because I've got no viewfinder on you. And to anyone who's watching this, well, I'm doing this for Dylan and Emily, so hi Dylan, hi Emily. Daddy, love you very much. What was I going to say? Oh yes, it's extremely dark in here. It is midday almost on the 30th of July 2023. I was going to say about the eye contact. I do apologise for my eye contact. It's going to be fleeting around between the two cameras, which is, so half the time I'm going to be very rude on you, half the time I'm going to be very rude on you. I also apologise for the darkness. It is pitch black here. Midday on the 30th of July, and as Europe is burning, as indeed I think it's Canada and most of America and China, we are on our 10th day of pitch black, rain and floods. And I actually had the electric blanket on last night. Strange planet. Strange what we've done to our planet. Why are we so much better at destroying things than creating things, with the exception of the artistic community? So, there's the introduction. I'm going to do a recital of, it's kind of, it is my version of Whiskey in the Jar, my rewritten version, which has been getting some very nice comments on YouTube and, well, on Instagram before I had to take Instagram with that. God bless you all, thank you, it's very kind of you. The version that I've been singing is from the original handwritten lyrics from the day that I wrote it. I did change some of the lyrics around, and they were included in this book, Songs of Injustice, where it's called Pray for My Family. It takes out the refrain. But of course Amazon have now cancelled me, because I'm a controversial political creature. How? I mean, it's called Songs of Injustice, you know. One of my other books called Poems for My Children, Love. Yeah, I know, I don't think I'm particularly controversial in light of some of what they sell there, but anyway. So I thought I'd do a recital of it because this is the only place it exists, and this is the only copy of this, and when I go it won't exist anywhere else, so I'm going to do it and put it up there. And I just realised I've left my glasses on the floor. Oh, I may grimace in pain here, so I'm going to cover my face up while I go, just in case, because I don't want my children to see how much pain I'm in. And Dylan and Emily, so this is your heritage, really. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end. So, pray for my family. As I was strolling over the Cork and Kerry mountains, I saw there Captain Kelly, and his reward money was he counting. I first produced my pistol, and then I drew my rapier. I said, "Your dirty money now, you fiend, or no saints shall save you." I took all of his money, and it was a pretty penny. I took it down to Molly and said, "This night's on the gentry." She led me to her bedroom, and there she swore she loved me, but her blackguards were awaiting to take everything off me. I woke up in the alley, blood from my wounds a dripping. I stumbled to the tavern, crying, "Water, please, to be sipping." The crowd in silence viewed me. They knew so well the story. A brash fool and his money, they never shall know glory. Down the streets of cobbles, I heard the soldiers marching. My brow burst sweat a cold, knowing 'twas for me they are searching. I thought back to Molly, promising to save me. I thought upon her finery, and I knew that she'd betrayed me. They'd already took my father, a brave man straight and true. They hung him from the gallows for the crime of stealing food. My mother got a fever and never did recover. And the foul fiends took my sister as an unwilling lover. I ran for the back door, but the captain's men were waiting. I yelled, "Come on then, ye devils, for you hell's gates are gaping." One soldier was a mere boy, and I muttered, "Lord, forgive me. But they've taken the shilling, so I'm taking them with me." I emptied out my pistol, and I watched one catch the bullet, and with my trusty rapier, I got one through the gullet. I fought with all my might, but I was much outnumbered. Then a cudgel took my skull in, and to the dark I stumbled. I awoke, not in Eden, but in some fetid cell. The guard, he was a-smirking, "I'll make you wish you were in hell." I staggered to the bars, and I spit into his eye. I said, "Ye filthy collaborator, at least I was a man before I die." That night they came a-calling, and they beat me half to heaven, but not once did I cry out. That pleasure I'd not be given. And as the cock was crowing, I heard the jailer mocking, "Last night your sister did I visit," as the door he was unlocking. His words, they were a two-way sentence, for they filled me with power. I tripped him to the straw floor, and to the corner did he cower. "Mercy, please, show mercy," fell from his coward's tongue. My hands, they tightened on his throat, and slow was justice done. I wore the scoundrel's hat and jacket, and I kept my head low. I made it to the back door, and fleet my feet did go. I made my way to Molly's, just as she was arising. I laughed as her eyes caught me. Was my return then so surprising? I said, "I saw your suitors leaving, and oh, there were a many. In their uniforms and fine clothes, you must have coins aplenty. Now I'll relieve you of them. You've a debt it's time to pay. And I'd keep your mouth a-silent, lest you want I return your way." I looked back as I left her, and these words did I utter: "When their interest wanders elsewhere, I'll see ye in the gutter." She spat, "You'll not see sunset." I said, "That's far enough for me. These coins will buy my sister passage across the fair Atlantic Sea." I made my way to our croft, or what there was left of it, for everything the starvers see, how they love to destroy it. I opened up the door, and I heard a voice a-screaming, "Touch me and I'll kill myself. I swear to God I mean it." "Emmy, 'tis me, your brother," said I in a voice most gentle. "No more shall those fiends hurt you, for I have come to save you." In into my arms she fell, and her sobs, they would not cease. I soothed, hush, my darling sister, soon we will walk on glades of peace. Now gather up your things, dear, and be quick about it. Molly's tongue might be stilled by fear, but somehow, though, I doubt it. The king's men soon will be here, and but one must they find. I bequeath to you a new life, as I leave mine behind. She bundled her possessions. In truth, they numbered few. Into her hem we stitched Molly's coins, as the milk cart came to view. I hailed the driver down and asked, which way are you going? Any way you want, young sir, for I hear a storms are blowing. I smiled at his kindness. I knew my Emmy would be safe. I said, take her to the jetty, and I beg you, please, make haste. Sweet Emmy did hug me, and I whispered, always remember, they never will defeat us, for we shall ne'er surrender. I watched the cart rolling till it was out of view. I laid fresh flowers on our parents' graves and told them I love you. The soldiers came at dusk, crying, come out, all will burn you. I threw my weapons for Emmy's sake, that way more time to earn her. Through the streets they did parade me, to use me as a lesson, calling those who would bear witness, 'tis time to make confession. Not one word was spoken. Strong silence was their answer, and when they offered tainted silver, they heard the sound of laughter. As they hauled me to the courthouse, I caught a glimpse of Molly, and I saw she'd learned the hard way a collaborator's folly. No more was she a beauty. Her face had scars too foul to mention, done for pleasure, not for duty. No more would men stand to attention. They dragged me to the devil's pulpit, and the magistrate he scorned me. I'll give ye no clemency, nor this God-cloaked land that borned ye. In pity my head I shook at him, saying, you vain and callow cur, this land was built for freedom, and ye shall never conquer her. The dawn did its rise in silence. Then I heard the cell keys clink, but my thoughts were not of me, but of Emmy did I think. For I knew they'd be a-gloating, if'n they had caught her. So I knew she'd made the gangplank with the time that I had bought her. They marched me through the streets and placed me against the schoolhouse wall. I cried, keep your blindfold, fellows, for I shall stare down you all. Take aim, sneered the sergeant, his coward's eyes a-gleaming. Take aim, ye dogs, I echoed him, for I'm waiting to be leaving. I'll know not where I'm buried, and little do I care. You look back not when you've placed a foot upon heaven's golden stair. This land shall not be subjugated, howe'er the mongrels try. And when history's ink has dried, their child shall ask them, why? Now I'm one with the soil, of this majestic land that God sculpted with a poet's eye for its children free to stand. And somewhere down time's walkway, I'll hear Emmy's bloodline sing and regale folks with my story as the bells of justice ring. So, that is the recited version of Pray for My Family. I missed one word out there, and I'm very annoyed at myself for that's a long song and just to miss out the one word there. That piece has got some very nice comments, but just for Dylan and Emily, guys, because Daddy wrote that, and it's a parable, so it's a very famous Irish folk song from, I think, 1845, somewhere around there. As with all these folk songs, they transmute and get changed and readdressed down through the years. And no one has ever changed it as much as I did in that version there. I think it's still only ever been 3 verses and 3 refrains long. Although sometimes those are split into passages. But to extend it like that. And that just came to me all in one go. It was a Sunday morning. And it's a Sunday morning now. You should see the storm raging outside the window there. And it's a true story. I just settled down to watch Columbo, which is on all day on a Sunday in the UK here on one of the channels. And I'll just look at the cornerstone, whiskey in the jar, and the opening words, chord finder. That's how it goes. And because it had been years since I played it in concert, and even then I only used to do it as a busking version in between songs and things like that, and a bit of Danny Boy as well. Everyone only ever knows Danny Boy or Danny Boy, the pipes, etc., etc. But look up the words to that. I wanted to sing that this week actually. I cut acoustic and electric versions of Whiskey in the Jar or Pray for My Family as my versions now. I'll do Danny Boy as well, but I couldn't do it to my children, who I'm supposed to be talking to here. So Dylan and Emily, so I wrote that, and it just came to me all in one go, and it would not stop, verse after verse. And it's handwritten as well, I wrote it on paper. I'm trying to get it all down there, and the images were just coming. And I get some comments online about my voice. So why are you singing? So you do the introduction in an English accent. How dare you? And how dare you accuse it of being an English accent? And then you sing it in an Irish accent. Well, I lost my English accent. I started losing it, I don't know, in the early 60s. I've told this story a long time before, but just for my children here, to Dylan, where Daddy grew up. You never got to see the place, but it was not a nice area, and there was a lot of prejudice against the Irish there. There was quite proportionately a large Irish enclave. It was a new estate, and it was a really bad, very rough, awful area. It was notoriously bad. Daddy grew up in a notoriously bad town. I think the other camera from its creaking has probably come to its the end of its edit. This one is high def, so I'm just going to concentrate on you now. So where Daddy grew up, it was a really bad town, and this was, well, I guess Minton's was probably the most notorious area, but this took over. It was a new estate, actually. They were still building it as I moved in there. I was living in a prefab. Daddy grew up in a prefab, not too far from where one of your aunties still lives, which was after the Second World War here. Now I know you've lived in some bad places since you've gone to PB, but it was literally, these houses they were just blocks of concrete with wires in, almost like, how we used to build your building blocks down here and everything. It was flimsier windows, you know, with some wire in, and then an asbestos roof. Problem, I can still see myself playing with asbestos now, actually, this curved stuff, then we break it off and it'd be flaking and everything, you know. Children's bedrooms on asbestos roofs above them. And it was really cold. We used to have winters in those days. So you're talking 1962, and the winter of 63 was the really bad one. And but it was so cold, and we didn't have any money or anything, and although I didn't know that at the time, obviously. But Daddy caught rheumatic fever, and I was in hospital for about 6 months, I guess. And and so when we came out, we got moved to a new house, and it was a new house, but it was just a bad area. But there were a lot of Irish families who'd come over, and we got shoveled down there, and we suffered for it because we were a mixed race family. Because your granddaddy is Irish, or was Irish, from Southern Ireland, a little village just outside of Cork, apparently. And your grandmother, of course neither of whom you ever met, was English, and it wasn't helped by the fact that your grandmother, so that's Daddy's mother, was crazy. I mean, she was psychotic, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what words you can use in this day and age, but I mean, she was, yeah, there goes the other camera, bye-bye. So that didn't help matters, you know, we were a mixed race family, and your grandmother, you know, had Daddy's skin, before the nerve endings died, Daddy's skin was a nice ochre colour, shall we say. So, so your grandmother was even darker than me. You can trace the lineage back there, I guess, a couple of generations. So we took it from both ends, really. You know, we were never integrated with the Irish community. And certainly the English. But you can't do it in this day and age, you know. People think they have a hard time now and stuff. But you would see the first words, I've said this many a time, but it's not a true story. But I've often said the first words Daddy ever learned to read was Irish Out, which was painted on the wall directly opposite our house. I mean, we lived at 153, so the other family, which would have been Irish Mary, as she was known to everyone. And, well, I'm not going to mention the rest of the family, but anyway, I mean, I think there were 7 of them there. And Patch the dog, we used to steal biscuits and feed their dog. Patch the dog, me and my best friend Gary Evans, we would have been, I don't know, 10, 11, I guess, at that point. They couldn't see it because they were there, and it was there, so we looked at it, you know, so every time we walked down our path, Irish Out, you know, and there was another Irish family over the other side there. Although that song dates a long way back, not a lot never changed, really, and I've put elements of that in there as well when I wrote it, because now here's a strange thing, and this doesn't apply to you, Emily, because you met your other granddaddy, but none of the Murphy men ever knew their fathers, or rather all lost their fathers young and never knew their grandfathers. So you're 10, Dylan, I apologise. You're 11, you were 11 last week. And you were 7 when you were kidnapped from here. And I think I counted up, you've seen me for 43 days since then, and nothing for a year now, obviously. So you lost your father at 7, and you never met your grandfather, or in your case your grandfathers, because my father, I didn't know him, well, I never knew him really, but I didn't know him from, I mean, I don't remember him ever talking. He was, you know, not like, he didn't have a relationship like we do, you know, where I'd just be sitting down and talking to you and always wanting to be with you and everything, you know. he just wasn't that kind of man, you know, and everything. So I didn't really know him too much. But I think he left when I was, well, he didn't have any choice in the matter. Your grandmother, so Daddy's mother, she was not well, but there's no excuse for that, you know. She was, you know, because you can be not well, but you need to make a choice to be evil, and she chose to be evil. And that seems to be an affliction that, you know, we won't talk too much about it. I'm sure you can see where I'm heading there. So I think he was maybe 11. He was 11. It's like Merle Oberon. No, I think her mother was 11, wasn't she? No, Merle Oberon's mother was 12, wasn't she? When Merle Oberon was born. And she was raised by her. Oh, well, let's not go into Merle Oberon. Awful things happened to that poor lady. Merle Oberon was a famous actress, and whose husband later was the partner of Audrey Hepburn. Daddy's going off message here, aren't I? So, I was talking about family, wasn't I? Yeah, so I saw him maybe 4 or 5 times, and then he died when I would have been 18, 19 or 20, I don't know. But I don't know very much about him. I only know a little bit, but I do know that, because I didn't know how old he was when he passed away. He was either, because he lied about his age, so I found his paperwork, and so he was either 37, 39 or 41 when he passed away. Because I went through all these paperwork, and he had a baptismal certificate that said one thing on, and he had a marriage certificate that said another age. I think he probably added some years onto his age, so I expect that seemed to annoy your grandmother. I remember her seeing this when I was sorting out his paper. He wasn't 39, he was younger than me. But he never, so I never met his father, who would have been my grandfather, because he was illegitimate. That means he never ever knew who his daddy was. And so obviously he never knew who his granddaddy was. So it seems to be a curse in the Murphy man, and I beg you, have children. If the world and the climate will allow you to, and make the most of every second with them, and just hang around with them. Nothing is more important than your children, okay? Time is the most precious thing, you know. If Daddy had not worked so hard, gone to work when he didn't need to, then, if is a very big word. But anyway, yeah, so, and your granddaddy, I mean, I got very little tales from him, and they all were filtered down through your mother, because, I say, your father, he just didn't talk, you know, your grandfather. I don't remember him ever saying too much. In the entire 11 years I knew him, if you added up every word that he said to me, it would probably come to less than what I've said so far here. The poor guy. But he grew up homeless and wild, absolutely wild. And this was kind of confirmed. He had a brother, actually, who came over, or a step-brother it must have been, or a half-brother, or maybe just somebody called his brother, who knows. This is a true story. The entire family confirmed this, and apparently he came over to England. This was when we were still at the prefab, and he came over to England to meet your granddaddy, who was called John Joseph Murphy, and and your grandmother and your granddaddy was at work, and your grandmother wouldn't let him in. I don't know what his name was. This guy could make up anything, but that is a true story, and all the family have confirmed that. And I think your crazy grandmother must have, she would do things like that and then regale people with them like they were a badge of honour instead of something to be ashamed of, But she had a lot of resentment built up inside her who knows, whatever reason, you know. Again, I never saw her from the time I was 13 years old, although she lived to be a lot older than I did. I mean, you were actually alive when she died, Dylan. I walked out of there at 14 years old, and I never went back and never thought of her in any other time. But anyway, so we're talking about the Irish side of your family here now. So your granddaddy, spoke with an Irish accent, and my accent kind of vacillated between the two. Because you know what Daddy's mimicry's like, and Daddy's voices and stuff. When I joined the army in the mid-70s, there was a lot of bad stuff going on in England, and again, you were always the outsider. It wasn't a good idea to be in the British Army with an Irish accent. I mean, I just wanted somewhere to live. I didn't join up for any other reason than that. I was homeless and I was 15 years old. And these people said, come, we'll give you a job. Take this shilling or whatever it was, you know. And I had a bed and food and everything, you know. And it's a story that I don't know if I ever have told you, but I mean, when I joined up, I mean, I was tiny, you know, compared to some of these other guys, big burly guys and everything. And but they'd had everything done for them their entire lives, you know. So I remember the first week there, you know, all these big guys, and my name's, Googe was one, and Dawson. Man, these guys, such a high opinion of themselves, like, you know. And then at night, you know, they'd be in the toilets crying and everything, you know, because their mummies had done everything all their lives, you know. So you go past the communal toilets, you know, 6 or 7 toilets there, and you'd be, you know, all missing home. And we'd only been in a week, and we had to go out on our first exercise. Just a weekend away exercise and everything. One of these, you know, acclimatization, toughing up. And they didn't know what the hell to do. You know, they were like, oh, you know, but, you know, they didn't like to defecate in a field, like, you know, but there's no toilet paper. But I've been homeless for 2 years, maybe at that point, 18 months at least, I guess, you know. You know, I mean, I wouldn't say it was second nature to me, you know, but I mean, it's just, you know, so I knew how to live like that, you know. And compo rations, you get this little pack of compo rations, you know, and they sort of eat it down in 5 minutes, and they'd be starving for the rest of the weekend. Oh, I've got no food, you know, because they were so used to their mummies bringing them in their toast for their breakfast and making their bed and make sure they had clean underpants, and they had no idea how to survive, no idea at all, you know. So they were there, all these huge guys, you know, and trying to throw their weight around, as boys do, as I'm sure you'll find on your first day at secondary school, like, oh, I'm a big tough man. But stick him in a field somewhere and say, find your own way home. They just died, you know. Then he had his leg broken on exercise, which I still can't talk about, which was in 1978. And I spent a lot of time in there. I was rushed to Aldershot Hospital, military hospital, and it was filled with paratroopers because there was the 2 para base there. And it was the same thing again there, you know. I just remember when Daddy was, how old would I have been? I'd been 16 or 17 when that happened. Because Daddy was in the intelligence corps, you know, although affiliated with other units. And you have all these great big, this is an important life lesson for you here, Dylan, because you are so intelligent, as indeed are you, Emily. But, you know, and they would be, I remember this guy, and he was in the bed over there, and he was just coming, and he was just chanting to me all the time. You could never do what I do, you're just an office boy and all this stuff. And he was telling me how fast he could run, how much. I mean, he's lying in the hospital bed, so he even wasn't very good at parachute because he broke his ankle. Landing wrong, you know. And how much he could lift and all this kind of stuff, you know. And I said to him at one point, after about 2 days of this nonsense, I said, so if the fire alarm suddenly went now, and he interrupted me, he said, you would see my heels for dust, he said, I'd leave you here, he said, I'd be out that door before you even got out of your bed. And I said, yeah. I said, I'm sure you would. I said, because, and we were on the first floor, not the ground floor, but the first floor. And I said, because I'd be going out that window. And he just looked at me completely puzzled, you know. And I said, you don't know where the fire is. I said, you might be running out the door and the staircase might be on fire. You're going to get smoke inhalation and you're just going to die in seconds. I said, I know that the fresh air outside that window is not burning. I said, so I just climb out the window and lower myself down to the ground. You know, he'd say, oh, well, you know, I can run 10 miles and I'm still fresh. But, I mean, even when we were 2, we had to go on this route march once. Oh, well, a route march. It was a very short one, 4 or 5 miles. It wasn't that much. 4 or 5 miles. Daddy can't even get up the stairs anymore. And I just hitched the lift. You know, and so they were off you go and run, and they were splitting up and everything like this, and, you know, and then map reading and orientating. But I just did that. I went about 200 yards and just waited and just hitched the lift in my fatigues, you know. A lot safer than those days. You just got a lift, you know, where you going, I'm going down here, you know. So I was like hours before them. And it was Sergeant Pat Young, this Scotsman who was built out of granite, I tell you. I mean, you know, you could fire a bazooka at him. Yeah, I mean, he just walked towards it, and if you hit him, he would die, and if you missed, then you were going to, because you couldn't frighten him. What are you doing here, Murph? So I got a lift. It's a route march. I said, but I'm intelligence corps, so surely the intelligent thing is to get here fresh. I mean, they had no answer for it. So on paper, I'd broken all the rules and everything, you know. And all these guys came in heaving and sweating and puking and everything over the course of the next 6 hours or whatever. And we were just sat there, you know, yakking away, you know, because, you know, who was the better? You know, they couldn't fire a bullet, you know, they couldn't see anything. Their eyes were so glazed with sweat. So, you know, if it was a war scenario or anything like that, any enemy would be waiting, they'd have been sitting ducks like, you know.